everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Argue, where I hop on social media, I accept your hot takes, unpopular opinions, and tough questions, and I respond to the best ones in videos like this. The wild, wild internet. It's crazy. Let's go. Cardi B wouldn't be as successful as she is if she was a man. Just in the same way I don't think Kanye West would be as successful as he is if he was a woman. Because the content that both of these artists create, their gender identity is kind of pivotal to almost nearly every song that they write. The whole premise of this tweet is terrible. Let me illustrate this by looking at another tweet that makes pretty much the same dumb argument. If Sheck Wes's album Mudboy was released by JPEG Mafia, you would have given it a better review. And what's funny is people make this argument all the time. And it's sad because it's like, you're almost there, you almost get it. Like, you have realized the premise that enjoyment and understanding of music is contextual. You like certain things because you've heard certain other things, or maybe you like certain records because they were made by certain artists, or you've had certain experiences. Your enjoyment of music or any kind of art is based all on your perception, and your perception can be changed greatly based upon the things that you've consumed, experienced, whatever. But the creation of music is also entirely contextual. The weird, wacky, alternate dimensional fucking universe that you've imagined here, where JPEG Mafia has made Mudboy, doesn't and will never exist. So the thought experiment is stupid to begin with, as the life experiences that Sheck Wes laces into his album, that is not JPEG Mafia's experience. Nor is the experience that Peggy extols on Veteran the experience of Sheck Wes. Nor is Sheck Wes a producer, so he wouldn't have even been capable of creating the kind of off-the-wall, glitchy, noisy, experimental instrumentals that JPEG Mafia crafts on that record. And maybe the saddest thing about this tweet is that it really says more about how the person writing it listens to music than it does about the music itself. Because while I don't think it's impossible for somebody who listens to JPEG Mafia to also enjoy listening to Sheck Wes, JPEG Mafia himself has said that he enjoys some Sheck Wes, and I enjoy quite a few of Sheck Wes's tracks too. But if you think the flows, the lyricism, and the instrumentals on Mudboy and Veteran are comparable to the point where if JPEG all of a sudden came out with a record that sounded just like Mudboy, I wouldn't see it as some kind of weird change of pace or a drop in quality, you, my friend, are on crack, and you don't listen to things that closely. All these mumble rappers are actually making better music than most of these old hip-hop artists. Depends on the degree to which you're talking. I think a lot of older hip-hop artists right now, a lot of the music that they're releasing currently is a little lost in the woods. Do I generally find the new generation of rappers, even some of the most dumbed down shit that they're putting out, more interesting than some washed up rappers' umpteenth record that sounds exactly the same? Sure. But are they releasing better music than what those originators created back during their heyday? I think that's a big debate, and one that you might end up losing if you're talking about music that is going to prove itself to have longevity and artistic substance. But if there is something to be said about this new generation of rappers, even the ones that are making the mumble raps, they certainly do appreciate catchiness, immediacy. I just kind of see it as two ways of going about doing things, and a lot of this current wave of trap right now, I don't see it as being all that much different from pop music. Even though it's still viewed to be under the umbrella of hip-hop, viewed to be a part of the institution of hip-hop, and I don't deny that it is, but we are talking about two very different creative generations here with two very different kinds of intent going into their music. You have artists out there that are trying to make something cutting edge, say something that speaks to the culture, delivers some substance, a message, and you have others that are trying to write music that is going to appeal to the widest number of people possible and hop on to an ongoing trend that will not last forever. But I will mostly agree with your point here, if not only to say that some of this newer stuff, it's not as bad as some of the old heads make it out to be. Melon is an anagram for Elon M. No. No. No! The album Donuts by J Dilla is vastly overrated, mainly because Dilla died 3 days after its release. He butchered a lot of songs into 1.5-minute half-assed experiments, and overall the album lacks vision. Look, with Donuts becoming as old as it is in the context of Donuts and the scene that it came up with kind of floating away, I think the understanding of this record has kind of hit an all-time low. Yeah, the album doesn't have all that much structure. It sounds a little rough around the edges. It's a little messy. It feels a little incomplete at times. But the whole point of this record was essentially to release to the public what in any other context would pretty much be a producer's beat tape. Something they might send out to people or shop around to different artists just to say, hey, I make beats, these are the beats that I make. Any of these I could change, alter, or pull together or craft into whatever way to complement whatever song it is you want to make or record, whatever. So the intention is not necessarily to have a completely finished product here, but to essentially give the average hip-hop listener a bit of a peek behind the curtain into an artist who up until that point had produced a lot of great instrumentals for a lot of different artists. And this album was kind of like a rare chance to be like, oh whoa, that's cool. That's the kind of shit you're just cooking up in the background. That's neat. Because up until that point, while yeah, sure, there were instrumental albums, producers weren't known for just coming out with like, hey, here's my random fucking beat tape on tape, on vinyl, on CD, buy it. Without records like this, you wouldn't have hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of random ass beat tapes on Bandcamp. That's a thing because of Donuts. And while J Dilla was not the only one of his era to do it, I mean, look at Madlib. Dude has come out with numerous crazy instrumental records and beat tapes over the years. Projects like this, because of their unique production and sampling and musicianship, this stood out to a lot of people as a unique experience and kind of changed the game. So respect, bro. Vaporwave is just internet shoegaze, which is maybe one of the most genius fucking things I've read all year, so props to you, man. Props to you, Ethan. Your reviews largely influence surges of streams/downloads for those you give positive coverage on. Knowing this, does it ever change the way you approach making a video or delivering an opinion? If so, how? Not really. Like, if I end up giving somebody some extra streams off of a review, I mean, that's kind of the point. I review albums that I think are worth checking out, or at least worth having a discussion about. I don't just talk about records on my YouTube channels for people to be like, oh, well, he thinks that? Okay, I'll just go on about my day. I mean, I would hope, especially if the review is positive, you would take the time out of your day to try the album out and give it a shot. I mean, what you're talking about here, it doesn't really affect my mindset going into the review, because no matter what review I do, I would hope that that's what's happening. I mean, sure, you could say that when I give something a 9, it might get more traffic crossing over to stream it than if I gave it a 6, but I'm not really familiar with what number increases or metric differences we're talking about in terms of whether I score an album 1 score or another score. I'm sure there are differences that could potentially be measured, but for the sake of, I guess, not ruining the surprise and knowing how the sausage is made when it's not really necessary to do my job, I'm not really sure if I need to know. So, I don't know, I think I'm just going to continue on doing what I'm doing. Trent Reznor will replace David Bowie in terms of his influence on music and becoming a household name? I'm not so sure about this one, man. For a myriad of different reasons, I don't think Trent has as many musically and culturally significant and groundbreaking records in his catalog to demand the type of omnipresence in the music community that David Bowie had. And that's not a shot against Trent's talent and abilities. He's obviously a great musician and producer, and he has written a few of my favorite records over the years. So again, not a shot at Trent or anything. But not only are we talking about wildly varying degrees of quality in each respective discography here. But we're also talking about marketability in general, which is also a huge factor when it comes to whether or not an artist becomes a household name. And Trent, while I like the guy, good looking guy, seems like a cool bro, good head on his shoulders, the iconography of David Bowie, the different looks, the different personalities, the different eras, and so on and so forth, is so incredible and so inventive and really sticks in people's brains. People go out on Halloween with the Aladdin Sane haircut and lightning bolt face paint on their face because that's a look. It's important. It's culturally significant. Nobody's going out to Halloween dressed as Trent Reznor. Maybe a few people. And even if they do, they're getting dozens of people coming up to them at the party being like, "What the fuck are you, dude? I have no idea. You look like a random guy in black pants and a black t-shirt with cut-off sleeves and emo hair in your face." So again, Trent, super influential, talented, and significant artist, but I don't think his look, his music, and anything artistic as well that surrounds what he does is or ever will be as widely marketable as what David Bowie has done over the years. And that's just frickin' facts. And I'm gonna leave it at that for this edition of Let's Argue. Thank all of you for watching. I hope you got some good arguments out of this video. Over here next to my head is another one that you can check out, that and the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, argue, 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 forever.